With the clock ticking, candidates for mayor in Jacksonville make their case. Omega Allen, LeAnna Cumber, and Daniel Davis. The first three among 8 qualified candidates will appear on the show today. Your questions for the people hoping to lead the River City on This Week in Jacksonville. Municipal elections in Duval County, they arrive in less than 2 months. So today and through early February, we are interviewing each candidate who qualified in the run for mayor. For fairness, we are interviewing each of them in order that they'll appear on the ballot. That means Omega Allen is first, and she joins us now. Dr. Allen, good to see you again, running no party affiliation. I figured this was a great time just to ask, why is that, that's your choice? I'm not with this party or that party, I'm NPA.
Kent, I'm NPA because I've been a member of both parties at one point in time or another. I've seen the inner workings, and I have come to understand that the parties seem to be concerned more with advancing the party rather than advancing the needs and desires of the people that they're supposed to be representing, and I don't like that. So
in addition, I saw that you've leaned into, for your campaign, I saw 3 words on your website. You're campaigning on honesty, accountability, transparency. Honesty, accountability, transparency. So what does that mean to you? How do you accomplish that if you're elected mayor?
Well, telling the truth, being honest. Tell the truth about whatever the situations are that we're facing as a community. Transparency, just letting the people know what we're facing. If people are aware of what they're facing, then they can be, one, prepared, and in my administration, being focused on participatory government, they will be able to put some input into what roles we should take.
So, and I think we'll get to this in a moment because I'm interested in one of your plans on how you address different parts of the city, and you're asking about or suggesting voter input would be important. I also want to let you know we've asked viewers in our Your Voice Matters campaign to submit questions for candidates. Some are specific to you individually. So I want to share this one with you. Viewer Harold Winery asks, Omega Allen, you are an underdog. I admire your effort. What makes you better than the high-dollar candidates? What will you do differently?
Well, thank you. High dollar doesn't really make or break a candidate. It's what's on the inside that counts. I'm qualified. I hold a PhD in public administration with a focus on municipal government. I am an expert in participatory government and participatory budgeting. That's what I have to offer that the others don't have. And being the underdog, I'm comfortable there.
You mentioned to me you've run for mayor before. Why is it that you're running again? You said that was important to talk about today.
It is important to me because, you know, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And in Jacksonville, in my opinion, nothing has changed. I'm running again because I believe I have something to offer the people of Jacksonville. I call myself the people's mayor, and I'm also that agent of change. Change doesn't just happen. Change comes with a definitive plan, and I have one.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about that plan as we go forward. You seem to have a specific plan or process for the 4 years of a term of mayor and focusing on the city quadrant by quadrant. So how would that work? How would you do that?
Well, Kent, what you do is, you know, if you had to sum up my candidacy with one word, it would be equity. That would also be the word that will sum up my administration. Break the city up in 4 sections, north, south, east, and west. Take the most pressing issue in that community, starting with the most disenfranchised, which would be in Jacksonville, the north side. Find whatever that issue is, take that first year, solve it. Second year, whatever came in number 2, solve it. The next one, solve it. 4 years, at the end of 4 years, I will have solved 4 major issues in this city. And to date, I don't know a mayor who's done that.
Yeah. Well, it seems like there are complexities to trying to solve problems because, as you mentioned, I think you were saying, hey, things haven't changed in Jacksonville. Certainly there are areas that administrations over the last decade or more have said, that's a problem we got to solve, but it's not easily solved, or it doesn't resolve itself in 12 months.
For instance, give me a for instance on one of those that can't be solved.
So perhaps the other side. How would you make sure that within a 12-month span you would solve it? Name your problem. Maybe it is in the north side that you're thinking
taking the tax. One thing you can do is take the tax dollars that are generated, the revenue in that particular area, making sure that those dollars remain in that area and not using them in a different area of town. Getting input from the constituency, finding out what they see as their main issue.
Find out their priorities.
Yes, their priorities, and work toward that.
Several viewers sent in a question regarding the Jaguars and the stadium specific to costs involved. So this viewer says, I'd like to ask each candidate's position on the stadium improvements and maintaining Jacksonville as an NFL city. We're hearing that there are plans already underway. How would you approach, as mayor, the need or the priority of having the Jaguars stay and maybe spending a lot of money on stadium improvements?
Well, you know, it's hard to say on this side how you can do that, but I do know that the very first thing I would have to do is get all of the details. Looking at the details, then I have to determine what's the ROI, what's the return on investment for the people of Jacksonville? How is it going to benefit our economy and that part of our economy that's actually going to trickle down to the households in Jacksonville? Keeping the NFL, of course I would want to keep the NFL, but do you keep the NFL at all costs when we have so many issues? We have homelessness. How can we take some of the dollars, making sure that Jacksonville is going to get its fair share of the funds that need to come back to us for our investment, so that we can take those dollars and invest them in areas that benefit the citizens of Jacksonville.
Yeah. So maybe 30 seconds or less before we run out of time. Do you see the value? Is there economic value that you see from having an NFL team in town that can go to some of those other issues?
There can be. I'd have to see the numbers. I'd have to see the data and let that tell me if the dollars that are coming in are actually benefiting the city as a whole.
Yeah. Omega Allen, I appreciate it. Dr. Allen, good to see you again and appreciate hearing from you today.
Good to see you again, Ken. Thanks for having me.
All right, City Council member LeAnna Cumber is one of 3 Republicans running for mayor. She joins us next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
And we're speaking with each of the candidates for Jacksonville mayor and going in order of their appearance on the ballot. LeAnna Gutierrez Cumber is with us right now, City Council member representing San Marco area, District 5. You've been on council since 2019. How does your experience really make a candidate, I guess, the voters could support because of what you've done so far?
Yeah, it's good to see you. Thanks for having me. So since I've been on council in 2019, I have worked really hard toward really being proactive in public safety, whether it was shutting down the illegal gambling cafes to raising the stripping age to 21 and creating dancer cards, which I know is something that I've been on your show before talking about, and that really will change the city. And most recently created a nuisance abatement board that is now working, and Franklin Arms, to a lot of your viewers will know what that is. It's been an apartment complex that has just been plagued with criminal activity and code violations and so forth. That building went up before the Public Nuisance Abatement Board, and we have a couple of more hotels that are going up. So really been focused on being proactive in the city to try to make it better for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I know budgeting comes up very quickly to the person who gets elected as mayor, right? The budget proposal is due to council 2 weeks after someone takes office in July. So what are the budget priorities for you, since it's a very large budget, as you know, sitting on city council, $1.5 billion?
Yeah, it is. And obviously, public safety is the first thing. Right. If we don't have a safe city and we don't feel safe, then really the rest of everything is, secondary. So public safety and infrastructure. As you know, I've been working in transportation infrastructure for about 20 years now. And so making sure that our basic infrastructure is being taken care of, the lighting, the sidewalks, the roads, the parks, all of the things that really make a high quality of life for everyone in the city. We have a lot of crumbling infrastructure that really needs to be addressed. So those are the sorts of things that I will be looking at, right out of the gate.
Yeah, some of those budget priorities, they're there because it's public safety, because it's, so dealing with those though, that timeline of having to do it in a couple of weeks seems challenging. So we reached out to viewers. We asked many of you to send in questions. So several viewers want to know how candidates are going to deal with the Jaguars in the stadium. All right, here's Melody Brunson, who asks, how much will you give in to anything Shad Khan wants, especially in light of the Jags doing better? He should not run this city. What do you say to Melody or other folks who say, how are we going to handle this and keep the Jaguars in Jacksonville?
Yeah, I think that anything we do with the Jaguars organization really needs to have a tie to them staying here and them committing to stay here. To date, there isn't a real commitment in any of the contracts for them to stay. And I think requiring a long-term, 20, 30-year commitment, which is pretty standard throughout with NFL cities. I think that's the first thing. And then just to make sure that anything that we do is really what's best for the taxpayers and what's best for the city going forward.
I've heard you talk about that in the years that you've been on city council, is about trying to handle tax revenue because it's taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
Does that make you want to push back at all? If it's a $1 billion project to improve the stadium and the team wants half of that from the city?
Look, what the city needs to do, what we need to do, and what I will fully commit to do and make sure is, in part of protecting the taxpayers, we need to have the very best negotiators, the very best lawyers, ones who are used to negotiating with NFL teams, are used to putting together these deals that other cities have put together. And that's something that we haven't done in the past. What we really need to do is make sure that we have the absolute best at the table who know how to do it and who have a history and a track record of working with NFL teams to make sure, again, that it works for everybody. And at the end of the day, the city and the taxpayers are really watched out for.
I'm going to go to another viewer question here. One of our viewers wants to know, how do you feel about outside PACs supporting or negatively impacting your campaign with ads? And how do voters know proven facts from fiction? And I think this is pretty clear. There's some ads going back and forth right now. Voters are saying, how do I know it's true?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a difference between contrast ads, which is what you will see from me and my supporters, contrasting my record with Daniel Davis's record. There's a difference between that and attack ads. And what you're seeing on his side against me and now against my husband and my family are personal attack ads. And so what I would encourage people to do is, one, do your homework, but also understand that if someone is so desperate to lob personal attacks, especially personal attacks on families, which I don't think has ever happened in the history of these mayor's races in Jacksonville, to understand that when someone gets to that point, it's really out of desperation. What we will do and what you will see and what you have seen is a real comparison so that voters can make a real decision on whether it's me opposing the gas tax and Daniel supporting the gas tax, whether it's on law enforcement and who really supports law enforcement as in his record of defunding the police. Those are the sorts of things that we are going to really focus on, and those are all verifiable.
So final minute, you call yourself a political outsider, not afraid of the good old boys. So if that's the case, then how would you get anything accomplished in that kind of climate?
Look, we're a city of 1 million people. We are the 12th largest city in the country, the largest city in Florida by population. The city has to stop being run by just a few people. There are 1 million people living and working and contributing to this city, and those are the people that I am running for, and those are the people who are supporting my campaign. And this city is really going to finally break through all of the potential that people say that we have and really be an amazing, great city.
City Council member LeAnna Cumber, candidate for mayor, thanks for the time today.
Thank you. Good to see you.
All right, so like Cumber, former City Council President Daniel Davis, also Republican. Davis joins us next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
Three of the candidates for mayor in Jacksonville joining us today in studio. Daniel Davis is with us right now. Daniel Davis served in City Council, State House of Representatives as well. You haven't served publicly in these last 8 years, but you've been the Jacksonville Chamber CEO. So tell us how that experience really should influence voters or tell voters that you're the right choice.
Well, it is a lifelong service, and I love my city, and I found different ways to be able to serve my city, whether it was city council or the legislature. But now, as the CEO of the chamber, we've been able to bring thousands and thousands of jobs to our community and help create a fertile environment for entrepreneurs and job creators, and it's been really fun, and we're seeing all the great things happening in Jacksonville, and I can't wait to serve Jacksonville as the mayor, and in my opinion, we'll be able to do 10 times what we're doing now on the 4th floor.
There was discussion these 8 years ago, maybe even 9 years ago, that you would run for mayor then. You chose not to. Was it because of what you thought you could accomplish at the chamber?
Yeah, I mean, we affect people every day. Giving somebody a job to where they can put food on the table for their family is about as good quality of life as you can get. And we worked very hard for the last 10 years to help folks be able to work hard for their families. And I just think the next opportunity for us to help Jacksonville move in the right direction is to serve as mayor.
We've asked our voters, or viewers, I should say, to be part of the process and submit some questions. I want to ask you this one. Yeah. 2 other Republicans are running in this race. Jacksonville has had a Republican mayor all but 1 term since 1993. Has Republican leadership held the city back from progress, especially when it comes to some of the issues we see, like removing Confederate monuments, where a mayor said, I want this, but it hasn't happened?
No, really, conservative thought process that I have is going to help propel Jacksonville forward. I believe we should have a smaller government. I believe we should create opportunities for entrepreneurs, remove red tape, remove regulation to where people have the freedom to be able to be successful, to help keep people safe. I mean, that's absolutely the most conservative thing we can do in our community, and that's me. I can't wait to bring those thoughts to City Hall to make sure that we propel Jacksonville forward to where it should be.
What's the difference between you and other Republicans if they're coming with conservative notions as well?
Yeah, well, I have more experience than anybody on the ballot from serving on the city council and every leadership position except the mayor, to the state legislature and the chairmanships that I had there, and how important it is to have a great relationship with the Capitol. But now, as an economic developer and a job grower, I am prepared to hit the ground running, and you can't have time for a mayor to have on-the-job learning. It has to be day one, moving the city forward.
I mentioned some of the viewer questions. Your voice matters is our campaign here. One of our viewers wants to know, here's the question, why do you feel it's necessary to attack opposition instead of focusing on your own strengths and experience during your campaign for my vote?
Yeah, I'm super proud of my record, and we're getting the message out there about all the things that we've accomplished and why we're the right choice for mayor. But going into this, my family and I knew that it was going to be a rough and tumble situation. I mean, people are going to attack us, and we have to protect ourselves and make sure we get the truth out there about all the opponents, and that's what we're doing. And I think it's worth the meat grinder to be able to serve my city. It's worth the hardship of a campaign that everybody knows it's going to be able to make Jacksonville a better place. So I am ready to continue moving forward for the city.
Here's another viewer question, appropriate to someone with expertise in construction and development too. This viewer wants to know, what can be done about the lack of affordable housing and level of homelessness in Jacksonville?
Yeah, it's kind of 2 separate issues. I mean, we definitely want to make sure we treat folks that are homeless, and Jacksonvillians don't let people go hungry. That doesn't mean we have to do all of that treatment in our core central business district. We're going to continue to do that moving forward. But we do have an issue with workforce housing. We got to make sure police officers and nurses and teachers can afford to live in Jacksonville. The big jobs that we're bringing here, we got to make sure people have the ability to pay their rent and to pay their mortgage. And I have great ideas on doing that.
All right, give me a couple of those great ideas.
Well, I think the city has tons of property, and we should be looking and talking to all of the ownership that we have, surveying what private and public properties we have, and helping it make sense for developers. Developers have to have a financial stack that makes sense to be able to develop a piece of property, and I think the city should be involved with that. I believe workforce housing should be part of our capital improvement programming. Just like a bridge, just like a road, we need to make sure people have a quality of life, and that's a solid roof over their head.
We go to another viewer question here, and I've heard this for all of the candidates so far. Viewer Mark Musselwhite says, I don't want the taxpayers of Jacksonville to spend 1 penny on an estimated $1 billion on Shad Khan's new stadium. What are your thoughts?
Well, listen, we all love the Jags. I mean, we just
Want 'em
are
to
getting,
stay here, right?
we just got through this fantastic season, and I think we have the right mix of coach and quarterback, and I would tell you this, I love the Jags. I always have. I want them to be in Jacksonville. But whenever we do negotiate on that new stadium or whatever that's going to look like, I'm standing up to the table to be the negotiator for the citizens of Jacksonville. Nobody else. So the citizens of Jacksonville need to understand that when I step up to negotiate, it's going to be on their behalf, and it's going to be a fair deal, and everybody's going to have skin in the game, and it's going to be a very transparent deal.
If it's $1 billion stadium improvement and Shad Khan or the team wants $500 million from the city, is there a point that you're going to say, yeah, that's too much? Or is that just part of normal negotiation?
There's always a point where you do that, and that's normal negotiations, and I have the experience to be able to do that, so I look forward to that process.
The final 30 seconds for you. Do you support removing Confederate monuments, even though City Council really has stalled from making a decision on that?
This is what I would say at this point. I am not willing to spend taxpayer dollars on any of that. I think there are private sector solutions to solving some of those issues.
All right. Daniel Davis, appreciate your time and coming in and taking some of those questions from our viewers, too.
Awesome, Kent. Thank you.
All right. All right, next time, 3 more candidates for you. Donna Deegan, Al Ferraro, Audrey Gibson. This Week in Jacksonville airs each Sunday morning at this time. I'm Kent Justice, so thanks for watching on air on Channel 4 and the CW17, and then online at news4jax.com or streaming on News4Jax Plus. And if you're only joining me Sundays for This Week in Jacksonville, you're missing out. Be sure to subscribe to my weekly Twidge newsletter. Just head to news4jax.com/newsletters. Click to sign up under This Week in Jacksonville.
Why every day more people are choosing News4Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.